months ago, she was the star of this race at its inaugural running. 12 months later, this year, she returns as the Queen of Greyhound Racing out to defend her crown. The two Queens of Greyhound Racing. She's a pearl, 1 length to Wow She's Fast. Wow She's Fast got up on the rail. Amron Boy storms, but the Queen did it. Wow She's Fast has won it.
Yes, the Queen has done it. Wow, she's fast. There's a big chance her trial at Sandown Park was enough, and she might have done it to make it to another Phoenix and go for 3 in a row. Would be an extraordinary series. Would be an extraordinary event if she was able to do that. Yes, hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Phoenix Flight Path. Massive, massive podcast, as big as they come. We've got the exclusive rights. TCS are about to jump on the line and let us know who they're selecting for the Phoenix. We'll catch up with Tab as well, Nathan Grech, to join the podcast to discuss hot off the press who they've selected. We're going to do a little Melbourne Cup review as well as the bold Trees, and as well take a look at the Flame, in which we told you J's J was going to win, and boy did J's J win. Let's get straight into it. Big show ahead.
Inside info.
Well, let's get straight into inside info as we count down to the Phoenix. We've got the exclusive rights to getting a greyhound slot holder releasing who they are selecting in the Phoenix. And without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Shane O'Hare from TCS to the podcast. Shane, welcome along, mate.
Thank you very much, James.
Hey, exciting times. Just before we chat a little bit about TCS, Total Container Solutions, don't hold me back any further, mate. Who are you selecting in the 2023 Phoenix?
Well, we're proud to select the people's dog, Hector Frawley, mate.
Oh, brilliant. Hector, what a superstar he is. Yeah. What a run in that Melbourne Cup heat Hector Frawley was on that occasion.
That was awesome. That pretty well put me over the line to get him, I tell you. That was such a tough run. It was awesome.
Hey, talk to me a little bit about the process before we chat about TCS itself and how you've ended up in the Phoenix. The process for you, and how long ago did he come onto your radar?
Well, there's around 10 of us in our group, which are pretty good people in our group. All the Britons are in there, and David Gill and Jared Sharp. So we've got some good people with us. We looked at a few dogs, but Hector stood out. That last run at Sandown, when he was just unlucky on the line, that was the one that we knew that we wanted to pick him for this race.
Well, mate, you're an avid owner and supporter of greyhound racing. You've been involved in the sport a long time. I think you own shares in 12 greyhounds, they tell me. But what I'm getting at is that run of Hector Frawley in defeat. I rate it as one of the biggest runs I'd ever seen. Did you think it was that good?
Yeah, we did. But that when he first got knocked on the first corner, and then he fought his way back, and then he just barged around the home turn. And how he didn't get it, we don't know. Everyone was on the edge of their seats yelling out, Hector.
Yeah, I mean, I was on the edge of my seat and I wasn't even sitting down. I was standing up beside the winning boxes, and I actually hugged Mitchie Bay because I had a sneaky little responsible wager on Hector that night. And, mate, I think everybody at Sandown Park thought he made his way into a Melbourne Cup. And I guess he is surprised a little bit that he hadn't been selected by somebody else in the lead-up.
Oh, there's a few people doubting his 500 ability.
Yep.
Everyone knows he can run the 600 quite easily. So we're confident he can do the 500. We've got no problems at all.
Talk to me about TCS, Total Container Solutions. Started in 2006, family-owned and operated business, and you're the founder. Talk to me about what TCS are all about.
Yeah, it's just a small company. We repair shipping containers. We sell them. We modify them. We make offices out of containers, kitchens, pop-up containers at your local football. You'll see they have a bar there that will make those sort of things. Yeah, we've been going there for just over 15 years, and we've got 16 employees.
So I did see something on social media. It wasn't TCS, and I'm not sure if this was a scam, but I saw somewhere on social media that they're now turning containers into swimming pools. Is that something you'd look at doing? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, we can do that. We can do anything. We can turn them into anything.
Gee, I like
as long as you've got the money, we can do it.
I like a man who says they can do absolutely anything. Hey, talk to me a little bit about the Sandgroper, because that was the first, I guess, entrance TCS had into slot racing. And let's be honest, you took the piss, picked a dog who I think a lot of people thought was probably not a massive chance other than the fact he had early speed, and you dominated that.
Yeah, I think we were the last to pick a dog as well in the Sandgroper. Linda invited us over there, Linda Britton. She told us to go over and go in it, so we went in it. She had Electrified, and we were tossing up with Electrified. Yeah. But we knew Crumble had the early speed, and as he does every time, he just comes out and hits that first corner in front every time. And we knew we were going to do that, but he had good dogs behind him to run him down, but they couldn't get him this time. And David Hobby did a great job the week before preparing him. He sat us aside after the race and explained us what he did, took him to the beach and just cruised him along. Yeah, it was pretty good the way he did that. It was awesome.
It's a great insight, isn't it, as a slot holder to greyhound, I guess, ownership and training. You get to combine as almost we realistically are an owner of that greyhound for that particular race.
It does feel that way. It does. I was so nervous before the race. Oh, it was shocking. But you got everyone else is in the same boat, all the little guys, not the big companies, but the little guys. They're all the same, and we all got together. So it was really good. It was a good night.
Explain the feeling of actually winning the race. Like you've owned a lot of greyhounds who have won races, but how do you, I guess, align being a slot holder winning a race like the Sandgroper and maybe the Phoenix with Hector Fawley? How do you compare that to being an outright owner of a greyhound that's actually yours? Is it a similar type of feeling, or is it even better knowing you've won a $500,000 race?
Honestly, if we had a dog run around the last Sandown the other night, Cosmic Sin, and he won. I just get the same excited for that race as I would for the Phoenix, I'd say. I'd be still happy, a little bit more excited, but it still brings the same joy to me. Don't worry about that.
I absolutely love the story. It's fantastic that TCS are going to the Meadows with a runner in the Phoenix, slot holders matching up with a greyhound who I think is just an absolute superstar. And I think we all agree. Hector Fawley, the greyhound that'll get back and storm home in the Phoenix. We're rapt that you're able to announce the fact that TCS are combining with Hector Fawley and taking on the Phoenix right here.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks very much, and really looking forward to it.
Inside Info.
Well, Inside Info segment number 2, and this is hot off the press. Another slot holder selecting a greyhound for the Phoenix, and this time it's Tab, and we've got a hold of Nathan Grech, who is the trading manager of greyhound racing, but I just call him the front man at Tab. Gretchy, welcome to the podcast, mate. How are you?
Good, mate. Thanks for having me. I've been listening throughout the podcast and the power rankings, and mate, it's amazing how much things changed, throughout the weeks of the Phoenix. It's such an exciting race, and it just goes to show there's no exact formula. And some people went early, some people are waiting, and we decided to wait for ours, and we're very excited to announce that we're going to go with the Anthony as a party trained Past the Buck, a very young up-and-coming greyhound.
Oh, I like that from you, Gretchy. Straight off the top, mate. Past the Buck. Congratulations to Tab selecting that greyhound. Talk me through the process. As we release this podcast Wednesday morning, the news has just gone live to the morning line on Sky Racing. Talk to me about how Tab joined with Anthony as a party and Past the Buck.
Well, it began when we got a slot in the Phoenix, and we got together as a group. We have a Greyhound Phoenix squad, as we like to call it. We got together, and what we did was we set out some rules that we thought, some variables we thought would be successful for the Phoenix, in terms of we thought we really wanted a Victorian Greyhound to begin with, because it's very hard to win a race down in Victoria against a Victorian. So we wanted to go with a Victorian Greyhound, and we also wanted a Greyhound who had very good early pace. So that's sort of what we came up with at the start. And one of the other variables was we thought these greyhounds, and they're such fast animals going around, Postman Pats, Scalachis, Alpha Zulus, your J's J. We just thought there was no absolute standout greyhound we needed to jump at straight away. We just thought, let's wait, let's watch these big races. We had the Top Gun go around as well, which Transponder won. So we sat back, we waited, and we just wanted to sort of see what unfolded, as we thought if we missed one, there was always going to be an opportunity to grab another runner that was going to be sort of up there in that echelon. And we sort of went down this path with Past the Buck, probably a couple of weeks in. I was really taken by the semi-final win in the Great Chase, and the first section of 5:02 in that, and then in the final, very unlucky in the final, but ran that 4:97 early section, and that was always said to me that, this type of greyhound, even though he's young, he's up and coming and very quick early, and obviously trained by Anthony, and he's such a great trainer. He's won all the big races, and we contacted Anthony. We knew the dog was out. It was out for about 3 or 4 weeks at that time, and we just sort of said to Anthony, we're looking at your greyhound. Where is he? And Anthony's such a transparent trainer, and he tells you straight down the barrel what he's thinking and where the dog's at. And over the weeks that we spoke to Anthony, sent us trial videos, trial times. He sent us everything sort of from, going to the vet to, when the dog went to bed at night. He sent us everything we sort of wanted, which is, gave us such great confidence, working with Anthony and his team there. And Darren, the owner, was also a part of all the conversation. So that just gave us a lot of confidence in Anthony and the greyhound. And then Anthony said, we'll put him in at Bendigo and give him a hit out to hit out the cobwebs. And, he ran that slashing 23.49 the other day. So, again, we just said we're in, we're locked in, and that's what we decided to go with, Pass the Buck. And we're hoping we can lead the race is what we're hoping in Pass the Buck. And, it'll be a case of catch us if you can.
I think he's a fantastic selection, to be honest, Nath, because what I like about him, as you say, is that early speed, and he probably goes into this Phoenix, I guess, almost as one of the informed greyhounds based on his resumption run at Bendigo, and with that inside knowledge, knowing how he's going, aligning with Anthony as a party. If he can reel off the pace sections that he normally does, and as you say, he's broken 5 at the Meadows, can then finish it off the way he did at Bendigo last week on his resumption run. He reminds me of Wow She's Fast going into her first Phoenix as a bit of an unexperienced dog, but with a massive motor.
That's exactly right. And what we like about this greyhound is he's got such a high ceiling. We don't know where it is yet. And I don't think anyone does, maybe besides Anthony. But the greyhound's got such a high ceiling. And these other greyhounds that are in the race, your big energies and your postman pats, we've seen what they can all do. And obviously it's very fast and it's very scary. But at the same time, I don't think anyone has seen the best of this greyhound yet. And for us, it's just really exciting to be, involved with Anthony in this greyhound because the ceiling is so high and such a young greyhound, and it's such a good story.
What I want to know, Gretchy, is how long ago you leaked this information to a dirty little rat at the Meadows called Corey Smith, because I've noticed he's had Pass the Buck in his bloody power rankings for a while. I reckon he had some inside info.
Well, I actually heard he had him in his first power rankings and then took him out, and I was filthy for a while. And I haven't actually spoken to Corey, and this will be probably the first time he's heard of it. Well, besides maybe some whispers around the track. And I did notice he didn't put him back in last week, but he did mention him last week, and I was sort of there just chuckling away, thinking, well. He's running at Bendigo Friday and he's locked in with us. So, Corey. He obviously hears everything going on at the track, and he knows all his greyhounds. He's a very astute greyhound 4 medalist as well, and he's obviously seen what the greyhound can do. And I believe the greyhound's trained sort of has trialled out there a lot. Anthony's always out there, so. Corey knows what this greyhound can do, and he's proven that in races at the Meadows and also trials. So it's no surprise that Corey was on the ball, especially with the greyhound resuming at Bendigo on Friday.
Yeah, he was all over it. He was straight to Twitter when it won first up. Hey, you're the trading manager of greyhound racing at Tab Corp. Talk to me about the market that will be coming out. I don't think we've got it just as yet as we record, Gretchy, but now that Pass the Buck's aligned with Tab, does he come out the $1.90 favourite?
No, definitely not. It is a very hard market, actually. You got the likes of, obviously, Big Energy started very short in a Melbourne Cup recently, started even money from box 4. Alpha Zulu, was dominant. It was a strong favourite in his Melbourne Cup heat. Postman Pat, obviously. Jay's Jay was dominant up in Queensland, and is also, a $1 million chase winner. So, all these greyhounds are proven, and our greyhound Pass the Buck is sitting there unknown, and I'm not too sure where he's going to get to in the market. At the moment, we do have a pre-noms market up with Big Energy leading the way at $2.80, Alpha Zulu $4, Postman Pat $4.80, Jay's J $6, Pass the Buck at $8, Scalacci there at $8. So we do have a pre-noms market, but we will definitely have a final field market once we know all the nominations and all the slot holders. And then the box draw will be on the Sunday, and I'll actually be down there at the box draw Sunday, and we'll have a market up as soon as the box draw gets done as well. But, I can see Big Energy sort of in Alpha Zulu, depending on where they draw, probably dominating the market. And then your likes of Postman Patty's a very popular greyhound. And then I'm not too sure about where Pass the Buck's going to, we'll probably leave him around that $8 mark and let the punters tell us where to go with him.
Hey, I like it. The fact that Tab at this stage, of course, chances are you're going to lose. 1-800-858-858. Or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au for free confidential support. But I like the fact that you've had enough guts as a panel to select a greyhound that's roughly $8 in your own market. The Phoenix panel that sat down there at Tab, I've got no doubt you were the main man.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this greyhound, and no doubt I was sort of pushing this greyhound. I just thought he had the ingredients of the high ceiling and the early speed, and the box draws are huge in these big races, and we all know that. And obviously we'd love to draw box 1, 2, or 3, but in saying that, if we do draw out wide, I do believe Past the Buck is the greyhound who has the pace to overcome boxes 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. Whereas I think, the likes of Jay's Jay, they're really probably desperate for the inside. Big energy shown. He can jump from the inside. From the outside, he's just not as quick and doesn't show that early dash. Alpha Zulu had box 8 at Sandown and wasn't great from out there. So we just believe that a dog like Past the Buck just has the pace to overcome any draw, and that's sort of what we're after, to try to cancel out as many variables as possible. And we believe, early speed was one of those, and has plenty of it.
And Tab, mate, they've been great sponsors of grassroots, I suppose, greyhound racing for such a long time, and they've been a great support of the Phoenix itself being involved now for a couple of years. I guess why is it so important for Tab to be a slot holder in the Phoenix, in your opinion?
Oh, we just think it's a great concept. We in the thoroughbreds, we're a major sponsor there of the Tab Everest and also the Tab Eureka now for the harness. So we just think it's a great concept, and everyone can get involved. And it's good to work with trainers and owners. The likes of Anthony has a party, and get amongst the industry and be among the industry and the participants themselves. It's great. We've had great contact with Darren, the owner of Past the Buck, and the communication's been there. Not only them, but also other greyhounds we sort of were in touch with throughout this Phoenix session. There was other greyhounds we sort of thought about and spoke to their owners and trainers as well. So I think it's just very good to get amongst the industry and be involved in the participants, and your likes of the Anthony Hazard parties and also the owner Darren as well. So we're always happy to be part of these big races. We're yet to win one, so we're hoping this is going to be it.
Could be the start of a loyal connection, I reckon, with Past the Buck. He's still young, and who knows, mate, he might be able to make it back-to-back and maybe even attempt what potentially Wow She's Fast is trying to do with 3. As I let you go, Gretchy, just one word of advice. Make sure you send Anthony Hazard party a message, because it's Past the Buck's 2nd birthday, 2 days before the Phoenix. No cake. Just keep the diet normal, Anth, and get the dog over the line.
Maybe we'll get some ice cream afterwards if he's victorious.
I reckon. Good on you, Gretchy. All the best, mate. And
Too easy.
I'm sure he's going to run a cracker. Well done.
Too easy. Thanks for having me.
Run of the day. Run of the day, run of the week, run of the month, run of the year, maybe. I guess we were probably always going to suggest that the Melbourne Cup would be run of the week. And as we welcome now Corey Smith to the podcast, he's joined a bit late, fashionably late. I think they say too cool to care, don't they, Smithy? Welcome, mate.
I don't know about that, Jim, but it's a pleasure to be back on this podcast that just keeps getting bigger and better. I tell you what, if it gets any bigger, you might give me the arse and someone else might have to jump into this chair, because I'm dropping down. I'm just all over the shop at the minute. Can't join you for the interviews, so I leave them to you. And I hear you've done a fantastic job with them.
Yeah, we did everything a little bit upside down, because I thought, let's get it order of importance, and somehow you were right down the end. But back to, no surprise though, back to what I was saying, Aussie Rocks winning the Melbourne Cup last week. We'll get the audio thanks to Watchdog Racing as to how this race played out, the audio on the vision. Here that is.
To the back, Idolise the leader. Max Damage up to second. Aussie Rocks is third. Big Energy starts to make ground. They're clear on Make No Promise and Tim Zoo. Then came Fab's Vegetable. Leader was Idolise. 2 in front, trying to get at Max Damage. Big Energy's running on. Idolise in front. To the outside, Max Damage. Big Energy flies. Aussie Rocks. Aussie Rocks has gone through and won. What a finish. Aussie Rocks.
And there it is. Amazing result in the Melbourne Cup. And I guess you mentioned this on this exact podcast at late, Smithy, how much you enjoy being behind the boxes on a big race. And this Melbourne Cup, it was extraordinary, because there were literally 6, I reckon, winning connections potential on the home corner that were starting to cheer for their dogs. And for some reason, I just stared over at Jeff Mitchell, who's the trainer of Aussie Rocks, and you could just see he was getting the most animated, and he was going, get up the rail, boy, get up the rail, boy. And you could just tell how much it meant to win a Melbourne Cup. It's a phenomenal place to be.
Yeah, exactly right. It's probably one of those Melbourne Cups where it's not going to go down in history as the greatest Melbourne Cup, just full of champions in every box. But I'll tell you what it was, and that was a race that was worth watching. It was a phenomenal race. It was a cracker throughout. Idolise obviously speared to the front as she does. She had to be tough and managed to hold on for fourth, but they just came at her from everywhere. Up on the inside, Aussie Rocks. On the outside, Big Energy. Max Damage was a big run for the team out at Meetung. And yeah, it was just an absolute ripper. And every time I hear that audio, I just get goosebumps because it takes me back to being there and seeing it and how good it was on course.
Yeah, it was an amazing race. Of the beaten brigade, just quickly, Big Energy, what did you make of his run? I thought he was okay without being maybe as outstanding as he had been in the weeks leading up.
He just didn't run that sizzling first sectional that he has been in his last couple of starts, and that's what brought him undone. His run was enormous, though, to get up and run the way that he did after he just didn't get it his own way early. Showed how much he's furnished into a proper race dog and how good he is. But yeah, I thought it was somewhat disappointing at the same time. But to be honest, when you run second in a Melbourne Cup, the only thing you can be disappointed about is not being first, which second's not too bad either when you're running for those sort of mantles.
Yeah, of the rest of the beaten brigade, were you pleased with one defeated runner more than another?
I think it was Idolise. I know she's one of my favourites, Jim, and I talk about her far too much. But to come back from having a litter to show that electric speed, and while she can't run the fast times overall that some of them can, she puts herself in the race and she ran an enormous one, and she was still there coming down the straight as well. So Idolise for me was an enormous run, even though the time probably wasn't there late.
Yeah, she's only probably a 29.70 dog now, and it's extraordinary to think she almost snatched a Melbourne Cup. And I must say, mate, on the home corner, I thought, gee, she might have this Idolise, and I can't help but sort of cheer from her, even though I tipped against her because of the story behind it. But she was overhauled. The Bold Trees, the other Group 1 at Sandown over the weekend, won by Palawa King. He was beaten as an odds-on favourite in the heat, probably the shortest price favourite of the night, maybe of the year at Sandown Park, and yet he comes out, and Jack Smith, he's just a big race winner. And I actually interviewed him post-race for racing.com. And I said, Jackie Smith, you let the punters down last week. And he pretty much said it's all about the grand final, and he knows when he needs to win. So it's a credit to him. He's a big race trainer, and he's becoming a big race dog, Palawa King. He definitely runs his best races in his grand finals.
Yeah, exactly right. You can't have greyhounds that are at their 100% peak week in, week out, contrary to popular belief. But Jack Smith just gets them timed to perfection. He runs this dog over 500 through $1 million chase series, and then he comes back and just bombs the start in a Top Gun stayers over the 700, but then still manages to miss the kick at Sandown a couple of times, but he's just far too good for them in a race like the Bold Trees to give himself a third Group 1 with that dog. I can't imagine he'd be the easiest dog to train because he can bomb the start, but the performance that he put together was exceptional.
I did hear somebody say that it was on a broadcast somewhere. It may well have been the racing.com broadcast that I was on, and I might be throwing someone under the bus here, but somebody said, well, if he needs to start beginning, and he's going to be a superstar, but he's never going to begin. He's had more than enough chances to begin, and yet he's still a superstar, even though he doesn't begin. That's just him now. Like, I think you take him for what he is.
Yeah, exactly right. And the way that he weaves his way through the traffic, it's like he has a jockey on board most of the time. I know he nearly threw away a Nationals final here because it was running up backsides, but he most of the time has a massive brain that can get himself through the field really nicely. So at the end of the day, you know what to expect, and that's Palawa King.
I just want to see the odometer reading on Jack Smith's car. I reckon it'd be absolutely through the roof. He goes all over Australia with those dogs, and the old saying is, have dog will travel. We're going to move on to power rankings, but this segment, sadly, has been probably the most, I guess, controversial segment of this particular podcast mini-series, but we're effectively locked in. We've heard from 2 slot holders who have announced who they're going with already on this podcast. There's one remaining, and I reckon she's as good as locked away. So we're going to go through the My Power rankings. Big Energy, Postman, Pat, Scalacci, Alpha Zulu, J is J, Hector Fawley, Past the Buck. And number 8, yet to be locked in as we go to air, Smithy, but is locked in, if that makes sense, I reckon, is Wow She's Fast. How do you see it playing out with her, and do you agree that's the That's the field for the Phoenix.
I think it's almost like an innocent until proven guilty sort of setup with Wow She's Fast, is that she's in until she's not. If that makes any sense at all, Jim, it probably doesn't. But I don't really know how better to say it. She deserves a crack at a Phoenix Wow She's Fast. Whether Sportsbet and the Greenos come to that conclusion as well, I don't know. I'm sure that'll happen over the coming days. But I'm kind of working towards the fact that I think she might be in, but that's just a personal thing. I don't know anything. I don't have any inside info. I can't give you anything, unfortunately, Jim, but I just personally, I think I'm just praying because I'd love to see Wow She's Fast go for a third Phoenix.
I'll be honest, Matt, I don't trust you anymore. I think you've put your feelers out. You know more than you make out. And we're going to, if this mini-series goes around next year, I'm going to be a hell of a lot harsher on you. I'll let you know that. Just moving on to posing a question for our listeners as we draw closer to the Phoenix. This is our second last episode, unless we do a little review of the Phoenix Smithy. So it'll be sad to see it go. But good news is I think we might be penciling away a little bit of a Sale Cup mini-series at the end of the year. But the question I want to pose this week, seeing as the field's pretty much locked away, who at this stage hasn't been selected for the Phoenix that should be? I thought it was a good question because I feel like Morton's one greyhound who's just been on the fringe the whole time, and he's probably a hard luck story not to be in there, and maybe he'll come up as a reserve. And I guess the second part of that question to you, Smithy, is how do the reserves actually take their place in the Phoenix and who selects them?
Yeah, so the reserves will announce the pool on Sunday when the box draw is 10:30 a.m. on Sky 2. So that'll be when that's televised, and that we'll go through all that. We'll also announce the reserve pool as well. So every greyhound that's been nominated to be a reserve in the Phoenix has to do that by 10:30 a.m. on Friday, and then they'll go into consideration. So basically what it is, it's not like a Top Gun, it's not like a Phoenix, anything like that. I'll have a chat to some slot holders and say, look, if God forbid your dog is scratched, who would you want in out of this pool? And then between the MGRA, between the GRV, we'll all have a discussion and we'll come up with the best sort of reserves. Is that a good enough explanation, Jim?
It's good enough, Smithy. God forbid. You just make me laugh, mate. But no, I like the way that's done. But as we wrap up this edition of the podcast, I think we're episode number 6, Smithy. I thought we can almost give a tip, and it's funny because we pretty much know the field now. It's been altering up and down, I think, our power rankings the whole time. Now we've seen it. We don't have a box draw. That'll be taking place on Sunday afternoon or around midday Sunday. If you had to pick one now, let's say Wow She's Fast is locked away. Who do you tip right now pre-box draw to win the Phoenix this year?
Well, we just spoke about Jack Smith being a grand final sort of trainer with Palawar King. And when you think of grand final trainers, Jason Thompson's right up there. And I'm going to be with probably the dog that I was selecting about 6 months ago, and that's Postman Pat. I reckon he'll be cherry ripe for the Phoenix. And I reckon if he draws a decent box, he's going to be really hard to beat. So my very, very far too early. Whatever you want to say, it's far too early to be giving a tip, Jim, prior to the box draw, but Postman Pat is it for me. Who have you got, though, Jim? More importantly.
No, literally nearly sitting on the fence. I'm not too sure pre-box draw, but if we have to select one, I'm going to go a greyhound that was actually out of my rankings last week. And I think I love the story of Hector Fawley. I made a mistake, I reckon, taking him out of my rankings. But the reason I did that last week is I thought he was heading directly to the Sale Cup. I thought he'd go around in the McKenna. He'd then go to Sale, have a couple of 650s, and he'd win the Group 1 Sale Cup, which now that he goes to the Phoenix and he's locked away, I think the heats of the Sale Cup are the following day. So the all-in ticket will be money back. Responsible gambling, that is, for the Sale Cup, Smithy. But, yeah, I'm going to go Hector Fawley. I just think with Daniel Hibbard calling the race, they'll have to have the ambulance on standby if Hector Fawley wins the team.
I like that, Jim. I tell you what, I know this is our second last episode, but we've been around the mark. Our power rankings, as you said, it's probably been the most criticised part. But as you said, we had Pass the Buck early. We've had Jay's Jay in there the whole time. I know you had Splinters and you had Bear's Bullet in there as well, but we essentially tipped Jay's Jay 5 weeks out. We can't do a huge amount more for the listeners. So hopefully everyone's been enjoying the show. And I tell you what, after the box draw is done, I am very, very excited to not only tuck into a couple of frothies, but to start picking apart the race and having a good look at it. And hopefully next week we'll have plenty of thoughts and plenty of tips and plenty of analysis on the race, because it's it's shaping up to be an absolute cracker.
We are going to pull it apart next week, and chances are you're going to lose. 1-800-858-858. Visit gamblinghelponline.org.au. But I just wanted to touch on JSJ, going back for the flame. It's funny, it's sort of a closing doors moment as we wrap this podcast, Smithy, because if he makes it through to a Melbourne Cup, maybe he doesn't get into a Phoenix. He misses out on qualifying for the Melbourne Cup, goes back to Queensland, dominates in the race that we thought he'd sort of target the flame. And the reason I'm saying gamble responsibly is we could not have pushed him any harder to win that race on this podcast last week. I thought he'd be $1.40 in that final with the box draw. He got out with some corporates to in excess of $3 at the jump, which I missed the race, to be honest. I don't know what I was doing. I was on the couch watching tally. I missed the race and I bloody regret it.
We have to give ourselves a pat on the back from time to time, Jim, because I think if I have 100 tips, I'm probably wrong 99 of them. So to get JSJ up, I'm nice and happy with that. But yeah, he was a phenomenal performance. It's a phenomenal story to win $1 million chase, then travel down to Victoria, run a massive race in a Top Gun, go through the Melbourne Cup Series, fly back to Queensland for a flame, and then back to Melbourne for a Phoenix. It'd be a seriously deserving winner for not only JSJ, but Team Zamet, who have done a fantastic job keeping the dog right.
Thanks for joining the show late, Smithy. You can wrap it, mate, because you've done bugger all this week.
Yeah, well, I don't do all that much from week to week, to be honest, Jim. You carry the show, but safe travels, happy punting, and stay tuned for the Phoenix box draw, 10:30 a.m. on Sky 2 this Sunday, and we'll be back next week to rip it apart.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.